Lost Roman Cup. Roman soldiers' souvenir from Hadrian's Wall, found in Spain, rewrites ancient history. A remarkable Roman artifact linked to Hadrian's Wall has been discovered in Berlanga del Dioro, offering new clues about life on the empire's northern frontier nearly 2000 years ago. Now let's go beyond the surface and examine this story closely in the AI
I
podcast.
want you to think about um, the absolute cheapest, like most mundane souvenir you have ever bought on a trip.
Oh, we all definitely have one of those.
Right. You know the exact kind of object. Maybe it is a mildly tacky coffee mug from an airport, or
Or one of those really flimsy refrigerator magnets.
yes, exactly, like a magnet you grabbed at a highway gas station just to prove to people you were actually there.
And now it just sits there.
Yeah, it just sits on your desk or your fridge right now, gathering dust. Completely invisible to you. But what if 2,000 years from now, that exact cheap trinket was the ultimate key to rewriting the history of an entire empire?
I mean, it sounds like the inciting incident of a science fiction novel, right?
It really does.
But that is the very real scenario we're looking at today because, we're so conditioned to think of history as this grand, deliberate record left behind by emperors or generals and state architects.
The people writing the big books.
Exactly. But the reality is that some of the most earth-shattering archaeological discoveries, they actually emerge from the discarded baggage of everyday people just trying to get home.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission for this session is to unpack a truly mind-blowing study recently published in the academic journal Britannia. It was put together by researchers from the Spanish National Research Council and the National Archaeological Museum of Spain.
And the star of the study is, well, it's a piece of ancient tableware.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are talking about something officially designated as the Berlanga Cup. It is a rare enameled bronze vessel found in Berlanga del Duero, which is in inland Spain. But the catch that caught everyone's attention is that it actually originated nearly 2,000 kilometers away.
All the way in Roman Britain.
Right,
Yeah.
right in the middle of the 2nd century AD.
And the stakes here need to be established right out of the gate, I think. We aren't looking at a simple antique or like a fun curiosity to throw in a museum display case. We are looking at a localized object that is actively forcing archaeologists to redraw the functional maps of the Roman Empire's farthest borders.
Redrawing the map because of a bronze cup. I mean, that's to really grasp why a vessel found buried in the middle of Spain carries that kind of weight. We have to look at the massive barrier depicted on the cup itself, which is Hadrian's Wall.
Right, the cup is essentially a tribute to that specific frontier.
Yeah, and it isn't just plain utilitarian bronze either. It's highly decorated. It features these vibrant, colorful enamel bands in red, green, turquoise, dark blue. The enamel actually illustrates miniature images of the wall's towers and battlements.
Which is incredible because the craftsmanship involved in Champlevé enameling during this period, it was highly specialized. I mean, it was meant to draw the eye immediately.
So it was a flex.
Exactly. It functioned as a clear status symbol for whoever was carrying it.
It honestly sounds like an ancient, highly specific concert tour t-shirt. Like, I survived my deployment to Hadrian's Wall, and all I got was this enameled cup.
That's a pretty good way to look at it, actually.
But wait, I have to push back here a little bit. Because we know Roman trade networks were incredibly expansive.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like, we routinely find Roman glass in China and Roman coins in India. So isn't it entirely possible a merchant just bought this cup in Londinium, sailed down the coast, and, I don't know, sold it to some wealthy guy in Hispania? Why is the archaeological community treating a seemingly portable trade good like it is the Rosetta Stone of Roman forts?
Well, if this were a standard amphora of wine or like mass-produced Samian ware, the trade drift theory would hold up perfectly. Things moved constantly across the empire, like you said.
Right.
But what's fascinating here is the sheer scarcity of these specific commemorative items combined with the highly localized military data they carry. See, before this cup was pulled out of the dirt in Spain, only 5 complete examples and 2 fragments of these specific Hadrian's Wall souvenir bowls were known to exist globally.
Wait, really? 7 pieces in the entire world?
That is it. Just 7. But what elevates the Berlanga Cup from a rare artifact to an archaeological Rosetta Stone is the text. Because around the rim of these cups, the makers actually engraved the names of the military forts stationed along the wall.
Ah, the names.
Yeah, and the other known examples, they only covered the western and central sectors. So the eastern sector of Hadrian's Wall was an agonizing blank spot in this specific archaeological record.
Until now.
Until now, the Berlanga Cup is the absolute only known example in the world that lists forts from the eastern sector.
Wow, so it fills in the literal blanks. I have the list here. The engravings along the rim of this new cup actually spell out the outposts. It lists Salernum, Unno, Vindobala, and Condorcam.
Which is just...
It feels like listening to a ghost story, you know? These were massive frontier outposts where soldiers lived out their decades-long deployments, and no previously known cups mentioned them.
Yeah, and the inclusion of those names is a massive breakthrough because it provides hard physical validation of historical texts that scholars have debated for centuries.
So it's not just a myth anymore.
Right. It proves the existence and the contemporary spelling of these specific outposts during the 2nd century. Furthermore, it demonstrates that the network of forts in the eastern sector was considered significant enough by the military apparatus to be commemorated on high-end luxury souvenirs.
But getting those names off the rim wasn't like picking up a modern coffee mug and just reading the bottom, right? I mean, finding it in the ground is one thing, but they didn't exactly pull out a pristine museum piece.
Oh, far from it.
It was completely crushed, deformed, and covered in 2 millennia of mineral buildup. But instead of trying to physically bend fragile ancient bronze back into shape, which sounds terrifying.
It would probably destroy it, honestly.
Yeah, so the researchers relied on advanced photogrammetry to generate a hyper-detailed 3D digital twin.
Which gave them the ability to digitally uncrush the vessel without risking catastrophic physical damage to the surviving bronze and enamel.
That is so smart.
It is. They could manipulate the lighting and geometry in a digital space to, pull those faint engravings out of the warped metal.
And through that 3D model, they determined its exact original dimensions. And it turns out this isn't some tiny teacup. It has a rim diameter of over 11 centimeters and a height of nearly 8 centimeters.
Quite substantial.
Yeah, to put that in perspective for you listening, it is roughly the size of an oversized modern soup bowl or a really hefty cereal bowl. That makes it the largest known cup in the entire series. So our soldier didn't just get the standard T-shirt, he got the premium, oversized VIP tour jacket.
You really did. And the scale of the object signifies a deliberate investment. Larger vessels required more raw bronze, more enamel, and obviously more time from the artisan. So it suggests a higher level of status or accumulated wealth for the individual who actually commissioned or purchased it.
So here's where it gets really interesting to me. It is one thing to read the names of British forts on a cup found in Spain. It is another entirely to prove the physical object actually made the journey.
Sure.
How do we rule out the possibility of, say, a Spanish blacksmith simply copying a British design based on some traveler's description?
Yeah.
How do we definitively anchor the metal to Britain?
Well, the researchers bypassed assumptions and moved straight to hard chemistry. They utilized X-ray fluorescence and lead isotope analysis to profile the material.
X-ray fluorescence confirmed the alloy recipe, right?
Exactly. It confirmed the cup was cast from a specific zinc-lead bronze alloy that was heavily utilized in 2nd century Roman Britain. But the lead isotope analysis is what provided the undeniable geographical fingerprint.
How does that work exactly?
So the atomic signature of lead varies dramatically depending on the specific geological formation it is mined from.
Oh, like a DNA test for rocks.
Pretty much. By analyzing the isotopes locked inside the bronze of the Berlanga Cup, the researchers matched the metal to the exact raw material sources. The lead and zinc were sourced directly from mining regions adjacent to Hadrian's Wall, so northern England, Durham, the North Pennines, and Wales.
That is insane. They traced a crushed 2,000-year-old cup found in Spain back to the specific bedrock in Britain where the ore was extracted.
Science is amazing, right? And because those specific mining sources were actively supplying local British foundries exclusively during a tight historical window, researchers were able to pinpoint the cup's manufacture to between 124 AD and 150 AD.
Which is just a few years after Emperor Hadrian actually ordered the wall built in 122 AD.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this metallurgical data gives us much more than just a manufacturing date. It provides a perfectly preserved physical snapshot of the ancient military-industrial supply chain.
Which had to be massive.
The logistics involved are staggering when you really break them down. I mean, the Roman Empire is extracting lead and zinc from the Pennines, transporting the raw ore across harsh terrain to local foundries in Britannia, refining it into specialized bronze alloys, casting intricate luxury items, and applying advanced enameling techniques.
All to service a local military economy operating on the absolute freezing, rain-soaked edge of the known world. It completely shatters the illusion of the frontier as just, a bunch of guys in leather tents swinging swords at the picks.
Yeah, that Hollywood image.
Right, it was a massive, highly integrated, functioning economy.
A fully realized military-industrial complex churning out localized luxury goods for a captive market of salaried soldiers.
Okay, so we have airtight scientific proof the cup was made in Britain from British metal, explicitly depicting a British wall. So how on earth did it end up buried 2,000 kilometers away in inland Spain?
Well,
The study makes it incredibly clear that this wasn't random trade. The answer lies in blood, sweat, and military service.
yeah, this requires us to look at the socio-political reality of Roman military recruitment strategies. See, Rome did not just conquer a territory and leave the local fighting-age men to their own devices.
Because that is a historical recipe for immediate rebellion.
Exactly. Instead, their strategy was to actively draft auxiliary soldiers from newly conquered or volatile territories and intentionally station them at the opposite end of the empire.
Keep them busy, keep them paid, and keep them thousands of miles away from anyone they might want to launch an uprising with.
It was a brilliantly cynical, dual-purpose strategy. It provided desperately needed manpower for distant frontiers, and it actively Romanized the conquered populations by integrating their young men into the rigid hierarchy of the military machine for 25 years.
25 years, wow.
And historical records confirm that a specific unit called the Cohors Icetalbarorum served on Hadrian's Wall during this exact period.
The Celtiberians. Okay, for you listening, let's trace the geography here.
Yeah.
Ancient Celtiberia covers parts of modern inland Spain, specifically areas like Soria, La Rioja, Zaragoza, Guadalajara, Teruel, and Cuenca.
Right in the heart of it.
Yeah. So you have a young man drafted from the warm, sun-baked, arid hills of central Spain, integrated into the Roman war machine, and shipped off to the northernmost border of Britannia to defend a stone wall against northern tribes.
The culture shock alone would have been monumental, not to mention the ever-present physical danger. I mean, from the perspective of a Celtiberian recruit, Hadrian's Wall wasn't just a military post. It was the literal psychological edge of civilization.
And if he somehow survives his decades of service, he finally gets to retire. A retiring soldier from this specific region likely purchased this oversized enameled cup and carried it those 2,000 kilometers all the way back home.
It's quite a journey.
I look at it like a modern-day military challenge coin, or a treasure deployment keepsake, but on a much grander scale. It is a prestige piece. He could place this heavy, colorful bronze bowl on his table in Spain, point to the enameled battlements, and show his neighbors exactly where he spent his youth. Like, see those forts? I survived Rome's most dangerous frontier.
Yeah, it served as undeniable, tangible proof of his endurance, his worldly experience, and his ultimate integration into the empire. But this raises an important question, though.
Like that.
If this veteran survived the edge of the world and carried his localized treasure all the way back to Hispania, what kind of life did he actually return to? Because the archaeological record often loses track of auxiliary soldiers once their service ends.
And that question triggered the next phase of the research, and the ripple effect of finding this one cup is incredible. Because the search for where this specific soldier lived upon his return led archaeologists to an entirely new, massive structural discovery hidden right under modern farmland.
It perfectly illustrates how a single surface artifact can unlock an entire subterranean landscape.
It really does. Finding the cup prompted the researchers to look much closer at the exact coordinates in Berlanga del Duero where it was recovered. So they brought in ground-penetrating radar to survey the surrounding fields.
Which is standard practice when you find something significant.
Right. The hypothesis was straightforward. If someone dropped a highly valuable, personalized military souvenir here, they probably didn't just drop it while passing through. They probably lived right there.
And the radar survey provided an immediate and structural answer.
It wasn't just a small hut either. The signals bouncing back didn't reveal a modest veteran's cabin. They uncovered the vast foundations of a substantial Roman villa. And the stratigraphy suggests this wasn't a brief encampment. The site was continuously occupied between the 1st and 4th centuries AD.
Yeah, and continuous occupation on that scale implies multi-generational wealth, deep stability, and a dominant presence in the local agricultural economy.
The structural details of this estate are staggering, honestly. The radar mapped out a rectangular main building that is pushing roughly the square footage of a very large, luxurious, modern suburban house.
Massive.
And that is just the main structure. It features preserved flooring, a massive chamber with a vaulted apse, and several additional annex rooms spreading out from the center. This was a sprawling rural estate.
Right, and to contextualize that wealth, returning auxiliary veterans who survived their full 25-year terms were granted Roman citizenship, a plot of land, and a lump sum of money upon retirement.
Pretty good severance package.
Definitely. And the scale of this villa suggests that our Celtiberian soldier, or, his immediate descendants, they didn't just return home and scrape by. They leveraged that military capital to thrive.
They became part of the local elite.
Exactly. They built an expansive agricultural estate, and this enameled bronze cup from the rainy edge of the world likely took pride of place in their Spanish mansion for generations.
It is a sweeping narrative arc for one person's life, completely reconstructed from an analysis of dirt, isotopes, and radar waves. The incredible part is that this history isn't lost to the dirt anymore. The Berlanga Cup, which is now officially cataloged as 2250, is currently undergoing meticulous restoration at the Numantine Museum of Soria, and it will soon be on public display.
Which is wonderful because placing an object like this in a public institution bridges the temporal gap. It allows anyone to stand inches away from a physical anchor to a very specific human life. A life lived 2 millennia ago, but driven by the same desires for survival, recognition, and home.
So what does this all mean? Let's take a step back and distill this deep dive. We started with a crushed, colorful bronze bowl. Through advanced 3D modeling and isotope analysis, scientists proved it was manufactured in Britain out of localized metals between 124 and 150 AD.
Right.
We traced how it was carried thousands of kilometers by a retiring Celtiberian soldier, ultimately buried and warped by time. When it was finally unearthed, it didn't just reveal the lost names of Eastern Roman forts on Hadrian's wall.
It acted as a literal treasure map.
Yes, guiding modern archaeologists to a massive, hidden, ancient mansion.
And I think the core takeaway for you, the listener, is a profound reframing of how history is actually preserved. We tend to fixate on grand treaties, senatorial decrees, and, the marble statues of emperors.
The big stuff.
Right. But the authentic reality of human history is woven into the deeply personal memories, the physical baggage, and the keepsakes of everyday people crossing vast borders to finally go home. The grand, sweeping narrative of the Roman military apparatus is perfectly encapsulated in the enamel of one soldier's favorite cup.
Which leaves me with one final thought I want you to mull over as we wrap up. We examine this 2,000-year-old cup with such intense reverence today, analyzing its atomic makeup and its geometry to reverse engineer the Roman world. If a mass-produced, enameled Roman cup was able to preserve the names of lost military outposts and map an ancient soldier's entire life, what seemingly mundane, everyday object sitting on your desk right now contains the hidden blueprint of our modern world, just waiting to be dug up by someone in 2 millennia.
Okay, one question for you. How did a rare Roman souvenir made near Hadrian's wall in Britain travel nearly 2,000 kilometers to Spain? And what does it reveal about the journeys of Roman soldiers after completing military service? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.